because earlier today, the Australian Open became the latest high-profile sporting event to be disrupted by protesters, with the pro-Palestinian activists stopping play between British #1, Cameron Norrie, and the German Alexander Zverev. The woman delayed the match when she began throwing leaflets onto the court that read, "War crimes and genocide, free Palestine." Worryingly, there were no security guards that seemed to stop the protester, but luckily for players, 2 fans removed the woman themselves. Police said the 2 women were briefly detained and asked to leave the stadium, but no offences were committed. Now, protests are becoming a regular feature, not just at Grand Slams, but all major sporting events with cricket and rugby targeted by those looking to push an agenda. And as for the Australian Open, serious questions must now be asked about their security and how they allowed this to happen.
Even today, I played obviously 5 sets, 4 hours, some minutes. I went to the locker room, and then the gym area is right next to the locker room. And they wouldn't let me into the gym because I forgot my credential in the locker room. Stuff like this, where it's like, okay, what are you doing? You're protecting players from players. It's not really the whole point, but then something like this happens and it takes, 3-4 minutes for somebody to show up. So I think, when something like this happens, it shouldn't be another fan dragging the other person out, It should be the security guys that should be there quite quickly.
We've had security issues, particularly at tennis matches before, where the security and safety of the players is really important. I would be, if I was a professional tennis player, which, funnily enough, I'm not, but I would be very concerned about this, because I think I'm a tennis player, though. But I think it's really important to make sure that there is safety and security. And I think there are 2 sides to it. One is, actually, I am concerned to make sure that all players, all sports people are always safe at all times. There really do need to be quicker actions if something happens on a pitch. I don't care whether it's a football pitch, a rugby pitch, a cricket pitch, anywhere. But also, I think that if we are to eradicate this kind of protest, then all around the world, we've got to take tougher action on pretty much every kind of protest until it's eradicated, until they move on. Because I think that, setting aside how unfair it is to the sports people themselves, I think it's grossly unfair to be disturbed in that way. But also, it's supremely arrogant of these groups who think that it's acceptable to protest in this way. The people who have paid their good money to go and see this do not want to be interrupted by these people and their views. I don't care how important they think it is. Stop it. Arrest them, get them on.
Would you say that's the suffragettes? We should care about how important it is, because we have to remember why they're doing this.
Exactly.
Look, I think a lot of these pro-Palestinians, and I don't know if it's just the media, the type of media coverage or how it's been covered, I do think they're narcissists. I do think a lot of them are genuinely, well, a small section of them, but significant enough, are genuinely malicious and hateful. But the reality is 25,000 Gazans have died so far. This war has clearly no end in sight. I think it's a blight on the West's morality to focus on these shenanigans of these narcissists, when really there is a conflict here. People are dying. Thousands of children are dying.
Can you listen to the words that you're saying?
That is what we should be focusing on. I'm sorry, you're more outraged about this than the people dying in Gaza. Seriously?
Yeah, but we're only talking about this at the moment. I'd be more inclined to agree with every single word the German tennis player said, had he not just whooped the backside off a Brit. But that's another story. I just think I'm bored with it. I'm bored with the fella at the snooker. Here's some yellow powder. Oh, look, I'm just stop oil. Here's somebody else. I'm just stop this. Look, the problem with these things, if you're the player or somebody in the crowd, I remember talking to MPs, and people don't have a lot of sympathy with MPs, when Fathers for Justice, remember that when they threw some powder from the public gallery? And most MPs you speak to that were in the House that day will all say, there's that split second where you didn't know what that was. And I think you would have the same feeling when you're in those protests. You don't know what it's going to be. And I don't know how you stop it. I'm not purporting to know. But it feels like the wrong place.
The things that James is saying now, and a little bit what you're saying, are the same things people would have said at the time of the suffragettes when they're throwing themselves in front of horses. Because you don't agree with what people are protesting about doesn't mean people shouldn't be able to protest wherever they want. It's a 4-minute disruption. And this guy saying, we need faster security. You go to a football match, a kid can get on that pitch and run up to Cristiano Ronaldo in 10 seconds.
He can moon Cristiano Ronaldo.
Even with all the stewards and all the personal security they have, you can get to the sports people. That's just the way it is. Whether it's a boxing game, whether it's football, whether it's ice hockey, you can get to the sports stars.
Court, you should be
in a tennis court.
Should be able to grab that person.
In a tennis court, because of the nature of the sport, there's this snobbery around it of being this shouldn't be happening at tennis. It's okay to happen at football and rugby.
No, I don't want it in a snooker either. Or the darts, for that matter.
Well, that's why they're working class places. They can do it there. We'll take care of it.
It's nothing to do with snobbery, but I think because we have seen serious violations of people's safety, I think that the Australians should be looking very clearly at their security. I understand your point, but I mean, frankly, I'm not sure it's the time or the place.